Hey, everybody, it's Ken Tucker, and I want to welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast. Today, I'm joined, as usual, by Paul, Ian, and Jeff. And today, we have a special guest, somebody that we've known for quite a while, and we're really excited to have her on our podcast this week, and that is Nina Radetich. So, Nina is a certified EOS implementer. And for almost 20 years, Nina was one of the most recognizable faces in Las Vegas television, working as a broadcast journalist for both the NBC and ABC affiliates. Now, Nina helps entrepreneurs and their leadership teams solve root problems, lead more effectively, and gain traction through their business, through in their business through proven simple processes and system from the EOS. So today, that's what we're going to learn about. Welcome, Nina. We're really excited to have you on board.
Thanks. It's great to kind of meld my old world with my new world.
Yeah,
Because we were all
absolutely.
part of duct tape marketing together, right? So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and actually, that's a great segue. My first question for you really was, we did all meet through the duct tape marketing consultant network. Gosh, I don't know,
Hmm.
5, 6, 7 years ago. I don't remember how long ago
Yeah.
that's been.
Yeah.
But I'd love for you to kind of talk about your journey, how you have evolved from the owner of a marketing agency focused on duct tape marketing to what you're doing now.
Yeah. And some people even are like, how did you go from TV news to how did that even happen? Right.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so after 20 years in television news, I had my son in 2010, and so my contract for TV news went through 2012, and I knew that in order to be there for him and to be present for him, I wanted flexibility, and I wanted to be able to kind of call my own shots. So I started a marketing agency, and you guys were part of that. Like you were there for all of that, and when you first start a business, you sometimes you gain momentum pretty quick, and I was lucky enough to do that. And then as you start to grow, a lot of unanticipated stuff comes up. And what I was finding was my whole goal for flexibility and being present for my family was not happening. I was mired in just working all the time, trying to figure out how to make this successful. I felt overwhelmed. I didn't feel like I had a grip on my business. So I was lucky enough to get an opportunity to join the leadership team of a local business here in Las Vegas that was running on EOS, also known as the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And when I walked into that business, I remember thinking, where has this system been like my entire working life? Like finally, like a structure, a system, a simple set of tools that allowed great people to just exponentially increase their impact, because this is about harnessing an energy. And so I was really excited about it, and I spent several years in that business. We were running on EOS, and I fell in love with the system. um, and when you've been an entrepreneur and then you kind of jump back into the working world for a little bit because it's right for you and for your family, it's scary then, because you know, now you know what you didn't know before, to jump back into that entrepreneurial realm. But this time I was armed with EOS. So I run my business on EOS. I don't just share it with my clients. I walk the talk. And so because I had fallen in love with it, I was like, I want to bring the transformation that I experienced in that business to other businesses. And that's what brought me to doing this work. So it's been
Yeah.
really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's also great, that I think a lot of people, when they get into the consulting world, they
Hmm.
sign up for a certification program, but they've never really done it before. And in your case, you actually got to experience EOS. So you
Hmm.
already have experience as, maybe not fully as an implementer, but before you took
Yeah.
that leap to get certified as an implementer, you already knew the power of what it could do
Hmm.
and harness that power. So I think that's really cool and really probably pretty different than a lot of people in the path that they take.
Thanks. Yeah, and I do feel like that gives you an edge, right? Because I can speak from experience around, having experienced the system as a user on the other end. And so that gives me some empathy with my clients, right, as they sort of struggle through, because this is a change to the way that you operate your business for the better. in the end. But change is never easy, and sometimes it takes time. So knowing that I have sat where they sit is helpful, I think, in sort of shepherding them along and kind of giving them a glimpse of what's to come, because what's to come is really great, right? You get to this place where you run a better business and you live a better life. I mean, that's what we say at EOS, because the two go hand in hand, right? Like this whole idea of work-life balance. We got to think of it as integration at this point. We got computers in our hands, right? So we've got to
That's
figure out
right.
a way to integrate, what we do and our personal lives as well. So and EOS helps you do that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Fantastic. Nina, I really appreciate you sharing at least part of your story, because I think the journey is what gives flavor to
Mm-hmm.
and the journey is about the experience we bring to the table now.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain a little bit more for those of us that don't know what EOS does and how it helps businesses? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, 100%. And I love talking about the journey. It's fun. Um, so, so EOS at its core is just a simple set of practical tools. So a lot of people are like, is it a software? What is that? So it stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. It is not a software. In fact, a lot of the stuff we do is these are timeless principles, right? They've been around for 100 years. They're going to be around for 1,000 more. But essentially, what we do is it's tools for harnessing human energy in an organization. And what we do is we make businesses better at three things we call vision, traction, and healthy. So vision from the standpoint of getting everybody on the same page of where we're going and how we're going to get there. I mean, a lot of times it's in the leader's head, right? We're getting it out on paper. We're getting everybody on the same page around that. And then we're giving them the tools to gain traction on that vision. I don't know how many strategic planning sessions you've all sat through, right? Get very excited about that strategic plan that comes out of that planning session, and then it goes on a credenza never to be looked at again. We give you the tools to be able to execute consistently on that vision with discipline, with structure, with accountability. And then we help make you healthier as a leadership team, so that the people that I work with are entrepreneurial, right? They're privately held companies, and they usually have a leadership team in the organization, or maybe they're building one. But we work to make you better as leaders together, because oftentimes when you bring leaders together in a room, we're so used to working as leaders, it's hard for us to come together as a team. So our goal is to make you healthier as a team. And really, as goes the leadership team, so goes the rest of the organization. And you just get to this place where one day everybody's 100% on the same page with where you're going, how you're going to get there. They're executing on your vision consistently, gaining traction toward it. And they too are working together as this healthy, cohesive team that actually enjoys working together. So that's what in a nutshell, that's what EOS does.
That's amazing. It
Nina,
sounds very holistic.
It is holistic, and we look at the business through 6 key components. So the model itself is made up of just 6 key components. And I think what I love about EOS, because I kind of have some visionary tendencies, is visionaries were pinging, right? We got a million ideas, got a million stuff we want to do, but this focuses you, right? And it simplifies your business to 6 key components in your business: vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction. And usually, and those are the 6 key components that make up the EOS model. And usually if there's a problem in business, it's because of weakness in one of those 6 key components. So what we do is we help you strengthen each of those 6 key components with specific tools and disciplines to help you.
Nina, is there a particular type of business or size of business that EOS works better or faster? What's a typical client look like for you?
So a typical client is, again, privately held entrepreneurial company, 10 to 250 people usually. Their leaders need to be growth oriented, and more afraid of the status quo than they are of change, essentially, right? They need to be willing to be moving forward. But I think the most important thing is that the leaders and their team need to be willing to be open, honest, and vulnerable with themselves and with those around them. Because if they're not, it's really hard to put these tools in place, and it's really hard for us to sort of move forward if we're not willing to say what needs to be said, not willing to admit where we're great, where we may not be so great. So that's a really important piece of this.
Mhm.
Nina,
And
this is Ken.
you guys should recognize that target market, right? We've got our target
Yeah,
market defined.
yeah,
My
absolutely.
marketing friends. Yeah.
So, I've done a lot of business process reengineering, is what we called it back in the old days, and
Yeah.
that term comes from my experience as a government contractor. But one of the things that consistently blows me away is that it's almost never intentional, although sometimes it can be, but it's really just that people get trapped in their silos and they
Yeah.
don't share information across the organization. And
Hmm.
when you bring them into a room, they're like, "Holy crap, I had no idea." And so
Hmm.
that alignment with vision consistently across the entire organization, I think, is huge. The other thing
Hmm.
too is, I spent a lot of time as a software engineer, and I worked on large Department of Defense software development projects, and we use this model called the capability maturity model. And again,
Uh-huh.
I mean, if you don't have things defined, measured, set your metrics, repeatable processes, all of those kinds of things, those are all things that I'm sure EOS, wraps up many of those same concepts from the software world
Hmm.
that I came from into an
Hmm.
operating system, for a business. And
Hmm.
so it just blows me away that, like I said, sometimes it's very intentional. Sometimes people want to hold on to their chunk because they think it makes them irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And, that heroism can cause real problems for the organization. Just curious how do you deal with that in an EOS approach?
So so many things wrapped up in that. And so let me sort of tackle that last piece of it. One of the things that we teach leaders is that if you want the organization to grow, you can't be the thing that holds it back, right? So as your organization grows, part of what you have to do is do what we call let go of the vine, right? You have to learn how to replicate yourself, right? And then start to elevate into your unique ability, which is a Dan Sullivan term for what you love to do and what you're best at. So part of what we do is share that, if you are starting to feel like you're hitting a ceiling in your business, it's likely for one of those reasons, right? You're not simplifying things, you're overcomplicating things in your business, right? You're not delegating and elevating, you're not doing a good job at predicting, right? You're not doing a good job at systemizing your business, you're not doing a good job at structuring your business. So all of that is baked into, like, developing those leadership abilities is baked into the EOS process, because that's what's going to help you continue to grow and break through the ceiling every time you hit it. And it is hard for leaders. I mean, I think the delegation piece is one of the biggest things that people struggle with, right? I'm the only one that can do it. And nobody's going to do it the way that I want it done, right? So, but you're really truly holding the business back if that's sort of your mindset. But understandably, it's not easy to do. It's scary.
But sometimes isn't that the case where that is really actually true? And it's really just more not the desire to not delegate, but a lack of training and carving out time to either get the right people in place or to give them the right tools and the opportunity. Sometimes it's hard to give up that delegation, absolutely no doubt. But I think sometimes it's, just because people don't have the training and the support system that they need to be able to succeed so that delegation can be
Or,
successful.
or to your point earlier, Ken, that the process has not been built properly, right? The process has not been built for duplication, right? Right? The process exists in
Yeah,
somebody's head and it's not down on
right.
paper.
Yeah.
So really hard to train when that process is, only in somebody's head. And as a business grows, right, it grows in complexity, but it's our job as leaders to really sort of continue to simplify things. But it's really hard to do that. And again, understandably so, when there's so much swirling around you, you're the founding entrepreneur, all of a sudden this thing blew up, right? And you start to lose track of the complexity that's been created. But it is your job, and EOS gives you the tools to dumb it down, to simplify things, to adopt an attitude of less is more.
Nina, how do businesses first hear about EOS? I mean, how do they come to you? Is it they think there's something out there, they're looking for it, they want to grow, but they don't know how. What's a typical path in your client attraction model?
Yeah. So funny because it's kind of all over the place, but most of the time, people are frustrated in their business, right? They're frustrated with something. They're frustrated with people. They're frustrated with lack of profit, right? I'm working so hard and I'm, I don't have much to show for it, right? Or they're frustrated because it feels like, like I was, like the business was running them and they're not truly running the business, right? Or they're frustrated because have tried everything and they're starting to feel like a flavor of the month leader, right? Like, we're going to try this month, this month. So they're usually frustrated about something. And Gino Wickman, who is the founder of EOS, wrote a book called Traction. And so that book is spread among business owners. I give that out like candy. So if anybody listening on this wants a copy of Traction, just email me because I'll mail it out to you. So people come in that way. We'll do stuff here locally. There are 3 other implementers. I'm in Las Vegas, or there are 3 other implementers. So we will band together and we do events to allow people to understand a little bit more about EOS. A lot of it is just sort of word of mouth, right? Or our sort of networks. People, we're talking to people and kind of letting them know about EOS, and then they come to us. So I do a fair bit of just reaching out to business owners and seeing how things are going in their business, not from a sales standpoint, but just, is there anything I can do to support you, kind of thing. So again, a little bit of awareness around from EOS worldwide, because the system's been around for about 20 years, and sort of a combination of pavement pounding here as well, right? Because we're definitely a relationship based business. This is not it's not a cold calling kind of, reach out. People need to want this. They need to be, I can't want it more than they do. They have to believe that this can help them, and they need to be able to lean into that. If that's not the case, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Nino, how you doing?
What's up, Paul?
Oh, same thing.
He always faceless Paul.
That's right.
How you doing?
We
The
need
TLP.
an avatar or a puppet for him.
Yeah.
I know. Where is your avatar? We don't even have an avatar, Paul. Come on, man.
I don't know how to do that.
That's actually Paul. When you meet him in person, he's just a circle with a P. That's it.
That's
right.
all he is. It's a sign over his face. It's funny.
So going back to one of your points about they have to want this and the whole delegation thing. I'm actually working with one of our clients right now that they started a business and they didn't think they needed to do this or that or CRM or any kind of marketing automation. And now they're like, oh, we need to do this because we just can't. It's overwhelming to not use those things. But let's go back to the beginning a little bit. How did you find out about EOS and what led you down that path saying, this is what I want to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was introduced to it in a business that I was part of a leadership team in a business here in Las Vegas, and I was introduced to the system there. We were working with an EOS implementer, and I was actually recruited as part of that business's EOS journey. So, and part of what EOS does is it strengthens the people component in your business. So that business was looking for stronger leaders. They had sort of smoked out that some of their leaders were not the right fit for where they were taking the business moving forward. That's some of the hardest work that we do at EOS, is that people side of the business. And so I had come in and been part of that and got this experience with an implementer. And I got to admit, I was a little bit skeptical at first. I was like, what's this guy doing? You know what I mean? What is this system? And I started to lean in. I had to read the book first. And I remember it being like, oh, it's one of these companies. They make you read books before you come in. Okay. I remember having resistance around it. And I guess I share that because I think a lot of leaders may have resistance around this initially. But once I got in and realized what it was doing for our business, and here's what it was doing. It was keeping me, because I have a problem with focus, right? It was keeping me so laser focused. That was what was so hard about marketing for me, was there are so many different opportunities and different ways to go with marketing. And you guys know this. I mean, it's like head exploding every day. Marketing changes all the time. And so I was always like, shiny new object. I'm going to go after the shiny new object. And then I would go down a rabbit hole, right? And then it takes you away from that focus in business. EOS, it makes you laser focused, right? You get clarity on where you're going long term, and then you build a plan step by step to get to that long-term vision. And what I started seeing, and what I got so excited about, was incremental progress to large goals. And there's nothing more satisfying than that. Like there's most people who own businesses are high achieving people, right? People on leadership teams and entrepreneurial organizations, high achieving people. And high achieving people get frustrated when they can't reach a goal. They can't get closer to their goal. I was excited to know that I was forced and held accountable to certain, we call them rocks, 90-day priorities that were going to chip away at our 1-year plan, that was going to chip away at our 3-year picture, that was going to bring us closer to our 10-year target. So because of that, I was like, okay, finally, here it is. Here's the system. Here's the structure that I need and others need. And so I was sleeping better at night. I was not taking my laptop on vacation like I had been in my own business. Even to this day, now that I'm back as an entrepreneur, I'm not doing any of that stuff, right? Like, I'm not thinking about work on vacation. I am crystal clear about what I've got to get done this quarter. And I am building my time intentionally. And EOS allows you to do that. It gives you some freedom in your business. We don't want you to just run a better business. We want you to, as a result, live a better life. And I experienced that for myself. And so it was inspiring for me to be able to take that transformation to other people. And I just worked with a team yesterday. And they're in the construction trade industry, and they've been busy going like for years, and they've built a very successful business. It's really impressive what they've done. They've never been able to take the time to sort of dream the dream and put structure to what that dream is going to look like. So they're now seeing possibility where they were just sort of going along and firefighting every day. Now they're seeing the possibility of what this could be, even just 5 short years from now. And so to me, I don't know if you can tell, I'm really inspired by this work, and I'm so passionate about it because of what it does for people in the end, not just the business, but for people, because I experienced it myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how in the world do you know what a 5 or a 10-year plan is in this day and age?
So we create what's called a 10-year target, but really the 10-year target is just a long range energizing goal. So it doesn't have to be 10 years. It can be 5 to 30 years out, but we want to get clarity on where we're going long term. Now, Ken, I'm not talking like 10 pages about what the organization looks like. It's a simple 1-sentence goal, right? Maybe it's financial freedom for the owner. Maybe it's to build a legacy with your business. Maybe it's to create, the best in your field. Maybe it's to a certain revenue goal, right? It can be quantitative, it can be qualitative, whatever that looks like. But we invite you to dream. And then what we do is we work backwards, right? So we look at, okay, if we're going here in 5 to 10 years, right? What does the company have to look like 3 years from now? So we create what we call a 3-year picture. It's not a big detailed 3 to 5 year strategic planning document. It's just painting a picture of what the company looks like 3 short years from now. Okay. That's just sort of a part of the journey to get to that bigger 10-year target or 5-year target, whatever you want. And then from there, we create a 1-year plan that kind of feeds up into everything, right? What are the 3 to 7 goals that we've got to get done over the next year in order to set us up to lay the foundation for that 3-year picture, which is laying the foundation for our 10-year target. So we come back to that vision every single quarter. And I think that's the power of EOS. Not to say that it changes every single quarter, right? Because we have to get good at predicting. We have to get good at sticking with what we predicted. But because we are constantly looking at the changes in the landscape, right? What business is moving at the speed of sound right now. So yeah, while it may sound crazy to look 3 years out, 5 years out, the power in doing that is to stay focused on where you are headed long term. Even if that adjusts, that long-term goal adjusts even just the slightest each quarter. It just keeps us really laser focused on what we've got to get done. Does that answer your question, Ken?
Yeah, thank you.
I love the system, if you can't tell.
So let me jump in. So, let's talk, of course, we're all marketers, so let's talk about the shift to marketing.
Yeah,
And
let's
I know a few EOS implementers. I know y'all get involved with the big picture and the strategic planning, and marketing, of course, is a part of that.
Yeah.
So in your experience, how has implementing EOS influenced or shaped marketing strategies? And then I'll have a follow on to that once you address that. But how has it helped or shaped the marketing strategies of the businesses you've worked with?
Yeah, so part of what we do in building the vision is we build a marketing strategy with the leadership team. And, like everything in EOS, that's a simplified approach to a marketing strategy, really just getting clarity around who is our ideal customer, demographic, geographic, psychographic makeup of our ideal customer. And then there's 3 other aspects to marketing strategy, but that's the messaging to that ideal customer. So we get clarity on that. And then the second piece of it is we define our 3 uniques. What are the 3 things that make us different and better? I mean, this is like 101 for you guys, right? Different and better in the minds of your ideal customers. And then we help businesses, if it makes sense for them, create a proven process. So that sort of 1-page visual illustration of how we take care of our customers from the time they're like thinking about doing business with us all the way to the time that they become longtime satisfied customers. And then if it makes sense for the business, because some businesses it does, some businesses it doesn't, we create a guarantee, right? That will essentially make selling easier, overcome any sort of fear of adoption, right? Because we've got a guarantee in place. And so we get the leadership team all aligned around that, really 4 simple things from the marketing side of things. And what I think this does, and as an ex-marketer, I find that marketing is it's the least understood function in an organization oftentimes. Do you guys agree?
Yep.
Yeah. So
and
what
Nina,
this does,
you're never an ex-marketer. It's always in your DNA.
It actually is. I know. I spend an inordinate amount of time on social media, which I should not. Like, that is, talk about a distraction. So because marketing, I think, is so misunderstood, what this does is it aligns the team around what that marketing strategy is. So there's clarity. And then when the head of marketing is executing on whatever marketing plan they have, right? Because that's the strategy, whatever plan they have, there are fewer questions because everybody agreed to, this is our ideal client. This is our messaging to them. Now you're going to go execute on that. Now we get it. So I feel like it really reduces that sort of push and pull that happens in a lot of organizations around marketing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So my follow-up is, I know you're very familiar from the Duct Tape Marketing Network with the strategy first concept.
Yeah.
So my
Yes.
question is how the strategy that you work feeds into the kind of strategy work we do. I think it's very synergistic, but I'd like to get your view on that, how that feeds in and then carries on to, any business that wants to work with a marketing agency, whether it's a duct tape marketing oriented agency or anyone. Just that flow progress from the strategy work you do down into the strategy that an agency might do, and then the implementation.
Jeff asks the hard questions, huh?
Yeah,
Are
we
you
give
known
them
for
to him.
Yes, the hard one. So, I think what I see is, and I haven't thought much about this, but so I'm gonna just shoot from the hip here. So what I think I see is the marketing strategy that we create, because I was head of marketing in the organization that I was in where I learned about EOS. What I loved was that it encapsulated very simply what the strategy was. And the work that duct tape marketing does is just goes deeper, right? So it takes that and sort of builds on it. So I think they're extraordinarily complementary, because sometimes as marketers, we need a little bit more depth than just those 4 things. But that's not what it's designed for anyway. It's designed for alignment, right? And everybody on the same page and speaking the same language. And then that strategy first goes a little bit deeper and allows you to create a really spectacular plan for execution. So I think they do work very synergistically. And what is funny is sometimes in EOS sessions, part of what we do is we process issues with our clients. So I have plenty of opportunities to be able to hear if there's an issue with marketing, right? And where a marketing agency might be able to come in. So there's a great opportunity for me with referral partners and that kind of thing to be able to just share with my clients. It's their decision in the end, right? But to share with my clients some of the resources that I have. And I'm grateful that I have resources like you guys, right, in the marketing realm that I could share with my clients, because often they will need that help, because many people haven't done this deep of work with marketing in their business.
Mhm.
I like that answer.
I didn't
should
mean to
shoot from the
catch
hip
you
more
off
often.
guard, but I've like I said, I know and have worked with a few EOS implementers, and I know it is very synergistic.
Yeah,
I'm
100%.
sure, especially with your background, you would see it that way. And you're looking in EOS at the big picture across all organizational strategy and growth, and marketing is a piece of that. So of course you have to look at it, but then it even wouldn't be appropriate to you to go super deep. And exactly what you said, the handoff, the kinds of things we do in strategy first is kind of filling out the rest of the strategy and then building the tactical implementation plan. So yeah, perfect answer.
Yeah. Okay, good. I passed. I'm just kidding.
So, sometimes those of us who are in the marketing world, we're not always the best at eating our own dog food, so to speak, and
Oh,
following
yes.
the processes. And, part of it's, being an entrepreneur, like you said, I mean, sometimes you just get into things so deeply that it's hard, and you know this because you're an entrepreneur. You can't see the forest for the trees. You can't find a way to take that step back and work on your business instead of in your business. It's really, really hard to make that transition. But I'd love your thoughts on, how can marketing agencies leverage EOS in their own agencies to really make their lives, their agencies better and deliver better results for their clients?
So marketing is a discipline, right? You guys are pretty disciplined about what you do on a regular basis, right? I mean, the things that have to happen in the business, you're pretty disciplined, aren't you? I mean, today we're going to tackle, social media content. Tomorrow we're going to right? Like, so you're pretty disciplined
Yeah.
about that. It's really
Theoretically, I
about.
mean, my
Well,
problem
no
is
one's
I'm a
perfect.
random abstract thinker. So, so
Yeah.
the actual day-to-day implementation stuff is always going to be a challenge for me, and dealing with different personality types or thinking types, I would assume that EOS has got, some really great strategies for that, but I'll let you go ahead and answer the question instead of dealing with my particular strengths or limitations.
We can have a side conversation about that, Ken. So, so where I was going with the discipline idea. So in EOS, what we have is a tool that we call the meeting pulse. And when you commit to EOS, you commit to a meeting pulse. And what that meeting pulse looks like is committing to time to work on your business. And it's 2 days annually. So, and that's when you meet with your implementer, 2 days for annual planning. It's 1 day every single quarter. And these are full days. So we meet as an implementer, we meet with our clients 1 day every quarter. And then the clients are meeting with their leadership teams for 90 minutes weekly. And we give them a tool called the Level 10 meeting agenda to be able to execute on those weekly 90-minute meetings. This was a game changer for me and for a lot of my clients. It's weird at first because it's a totally different way of running a meeting, but it is so incredibly effective. And what it does is it eliminates a lot of what I like to call drive-bys, where you're in the middle of something and somebody messages you on Slack because they need an answer right now, right? When really, maybe that could have waited for your weekly meeting. You put it on your issues list and you have a conversation about it on Wednesday instead of Monday, right? So what this meeting agenda does is it focuses you so much and helps you not only look at all of the numbers that are important to the business on the weekly, but also to process any of the issues that are holding you back. And I'm happy to, if you guys have a way to do this, share a level 10 agenda with anybody who's interested in it, because it is so game changing for businesses in how they continue to gain traction, how they increase communication, team health in their organization as well. So for marketing agencies, it is about coming up for air, taking time and committing to that time, right? The same discipline that you put into creating content for your clients, creating a marketing strategy for your clients, apply that same discipline to working on the business. Even if you start with a half day every quarter, right? Even if you start there, because otherwise you're just going to be in the day-to-day, that firefight. You're never taking a minute to look big picture. And some people are like, do you do that? I'm like, yes, I actually do. Like I have a assistant that works in my business, right? I'm not a massive business. I'm a teacher, facilitator, and coach with an assistant. That's it. And maybe some outsourced marketing. That's it. And honestly, we come together every quarter. Now, maybe we don't spend a full day because we're smaller and we don't need that full day. But we do. We take the time. We're committed to that. So this was the game-changing thing for me, is committing to that discipline, because it really is hard. You put it on the calendar and it's movable, right? Because it's just you that you're committed to, right? Unless you have a big team in your marketing agency. But I would argue that it's important to commit to you, because you cannot, otherwise you're not going to know where you're going, and you're going to be in the constant just chasing whatever comes your way, right? You're not being intentional about the action that you're taking in your business.
Hey, Nina, something you said about Slack was just, that's why you don't use Slack. But
I use Slack. I'd actually do. I do use Slack.
No, I
think Paul was making an editorial comment.
Yeah, don't use Slack. It's a pain in the ass.
Okay.
But there's all these, when you're talking about communication, there's all these communication channels out there. How do you get people focused on what communication channel to use for what?
Well, that's up to them. I mean, that's not something that I really, part of what we do with EOS is we put ourselves out of a job. So a lot of times our clients will work with us. It's usually about a 2-year journey. But our goal is to not get them to rely on us. Our goal is to help empower them, give them this set of tools, and then get out of their way so that they can run their businesses. So if an issue like that comes up, I will facilitate a discussion around what makes sense. But when it comes to communication, what we recommend is that meeting pulse. And we recommend a once weekly 90-minute meeting with the leadership team. And then eventually what you're doing is, when you master that on the leadership team, you cascade that down into the rest of the organization. So each department is having its own level 10. Maybe those level 10s are not 90 minutes long. Maybe they're 45 minutes and they're every 2 weeks, right? Whatever the organization needs. But we're creating that consistency and that discipline. And what we find, Paul, is sort of a natural byproduct is people start to, because they know they're coming together once a week, every week. I mean, unless they die or they're on vacation, like it's that we're that committed to this weekly meeting, they tend not to have as much needed communication outside of that meeting. So it allows you some freedom to get more things done without a bunch of things interrupting your day, because you do know that you have an opportunity for communication once a week, a scheduled opportunity.
Okay, so do people, so what you're saying is because you have these meetings, people know what they're supposed to be doing. So they should know what they're supposed to be doing. So they don't necessarily have to be sending emails and text messages, whatever, on a daily basis.
Yeah, you're getting on the same page in these meetings. There's accountability built in. What you're doing is you're looking at a weekly scorecard. So you're looking at all the numbers that are important to your business on the weekly. You're reviewing your rocks, which are your 90-day priorities. Are you on track? Or are you off track with your rocks? You're reviewing any issues with your customers and employees. Like, is there something that we've got to talk about, or is there something positive we want to share? And then you've got a list of to-dos. We call those are 7-day action items. We call those to-dos. So you're looking at your to-dos every week, right? So you're accountable for those to-dos. And then you spend the bulk of the meeting solving issues using a tool that we call IDS, or the issue solving track, where you identify the issue, the root cause of the issue, you discuss the issue, but not over discuss, right? We actually want to discuss with the intent to solve, which is the S part of IDS. And a solution typically involves that somebody's got to make a decision, and then somebody's got to take an action, which oftentimes then becomes a to-do. So that those to-dos build that 7-day accountability. Issue processing helps you break through any roadblocks you're experiencing. And then you're looking at the numbers and the goals that are most important to the business, right? Because you've built that already. So yeah, each week you're coming together with clarity and gaining more clarity through that meeting together. Does that make sense?
Yes, awesome.
So how do you know that you've got the right goals and the right metrics to get to where you're trying to go?
Oh my gosh, it's loaded, isn't it? All of this whole entire process is a learning process. And we humans learn best by doing, right? A lot of people do, right? Some people learn best by reading, but a lot of people learn best by doing. So we as EOS implementers will walk you through, what is involved in setting rocks, in setting a 1-year plan. Like we'll help facilitate that conversation. What we find mostly is that people know what needs to be done. People know, what they want to happen in their business, but it's mostly up here. It's just not on paper yet. So the process really helps you get that stuff out on paper. Is it perfect? No, but every quarter we come back together and we learn something, right? So maybe you set 3 to 5 rocks last quarter and you hit 3 of them, but 2 of them you're like, well, I didn't know that I'd have to wait for that, and I wasn't sure, right? So you learn something about rock setting and priority setting every single quarter, and you're building up what we call a predicting muscle, right? You're building your ability to predict in the business through consistently doing it, through that discipline of working on your business.
Yeah. So iteration and adaptation.
100%.
I love the structure and the intentionality that you talked about, Nina, with the meetings, because having come from the, I think most of us have actually come from the corporate world, but in the corporate world, you often have death by meetings. So, just the intentionality, the structure to ensure that you're not wasting your time and everybody's time, and you're actually purposely talking about what's going to help you achieve those big goals is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is when we tell people, so you're going to do a 90-minute meeting every week, and they're like, oh, what? Like what? So the first few, they're a little bit like, what is happening here, right? So and we give them the structure, and then we tell them, look, it's going to be clunky. Just get in the room and do it. And by the time we get back together for sort of that second time, they're like, we can't imagine doing a meeting any other way, right? Like this is just game changing for us from a communication standpoint, from a structure standpoint. And people then end up, I remember at my level 10, I was like, oh my God, I get to be with my, that's me. I'm a little cheerleader anyway, but I'm like, oh, I get to be with my fellow leaders this week. You know what I mean? Like it was exciting for me, and you gets to be your favorite 90 minutes of the week, truly. For some people, maybe
That's
just for
cool.
me.
I have a question, but I think Paul was going to ask a follow-up there. Were you, Paul?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, the corporate world has 3 meetings to decide whether or not they need to have a meeting. And then you get into the entrepreneurs, and they're like, what? Like Nina just said, we're going to have a meeting every week. I don't have time for that.
Right.
And everybody gets sucked into the orbit, right? Oh, we need this person. We need that person. Earlier, Nina, you talked about 6 key components of the model. Can you talk a little bit more and share a little bit more about those?
You bet. So, and I wish I had something ready. I could pop it up on the screen. But so the vision component is at the top of the model. And again, this is just getting everybody on the same page with where we're going, how we're going to get there, right? And there's a couple of tools that we use to strengthen that vision component, something what we call the 8 questions, which is essentially, what are your core values? What is your core focus? What is your 10-year target? What is your marketing strategy? What is your 3-year picture? What is your 1-year plan? What are your ROC, 90-day priorities? And what are your issues? And we get everybody aligned around the answers to those 8 questions, and we get that vision shared by all in the organization. So not a big detailed strategic planning process, 2 pages, front and back, and we've got a complete vision and a plan. So that's strengthening the vision component. And then the second component is the people component. And this is about defining what makes great people for our unique organization, right? This is about building culture, getting the right people in the right seats. If you've read Jim Collins at all, you're familiar with that. So many people struggle with the people component. So we give you the tools to get the right people into the right seats. The data component, running your business on facts, figures, objective information. A lot of times in entrepreneurial companies, we're nimble, right? So we're like, that looks like a good way. Let's go that way, like feeling-based, emotion-based, sometimes ego-driven decision-making in a company. So the data component really strengthens our ability to make data-based decisions. And then when you just strengthen those top 3 components, vision, people, and data, you create transparency in your organization. Like all the issues, imperfections, all that stuff has nowhere to hide, right? Because you're strengthening those 3 components. And that brings us to the issues component, which is the 4th key component. So the issues component is every organization has issues. Some sweep them under the rug until the organization is bursting at the seams with issues that are swept under the rug, right? And never dealt with. So this is about creating a culture in our organization where we're not afraid to be like, hey, I got a roadblock, or we've got an issue, or we've got something we've got to discuss, right? We're not just pretending like we know everything. And we're together solving those issues to get us closer to the vision. And then the process component, and I know this will resonate with Ken because of the work that he did too, and you guys too, because in marketing, you have to have processes, for heaven's sakes. If you don't, you're in hell, right? It's terrible. So the process component is just making sure that the most important stuff in your business is done the right and best way every single time, so that you're creating consistency, making it easier to manage, and ultimately making it scalable. And then lastly is that traction component. So just bringing that vision down to the ground, executing on it day in, day out with discipline, with accountability, so that every day we're getting closer to our vision. Because Gino Wickman likes to say that vision without traction is hallucination. So dream on. Yeah, so those are the 6 key components. And the whole idea is not to get to 100% strong, because that's perfection. We don't want perfectionism, but to the extent that you can get to like 80% strong or better in each of those 6 key components, you're truly running a great business, right? We're not after perfection. We're trying to just run a better business, live a better life. So our goal is to help our clients get to 80% strong or better. And all of my overachieving A students are like, we want 100%. Like, I know you do. But it's going to feel better even if you get closer to 80. So calm down.
Yeah. As a recovering perfectionist, I know that perfection is the enemy of done, right?
It sure is. It's
the enemy of progress.
The enemy of anything. Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel you on the perfection, because I get stuck in it all the time and coach people out of it too. But yeah.
So Nina, you mentioned scorecards earlier, and EOS uses scorecards. So I get first, what is a scorecard as it relates to EOS, and how can a business develop marketing specific scorecards to measure the effectiveness of what they're doing, their campaigns or strategies, whatever?
Yeah, so the marketing scorecard is an interesting one, and I'll see if I can give you some insight on that. But I'll just kind of back up a sec. So the scorecard in EOS is just sort of a different way of looking at data in your business. It is a weekly scorecard, 5 to 15 numbers that give you a true pulse on your business. It's not, we're not looking at budget, P&L. Those are lagging indicators. These are 5 to 15 numbers that I always tell people foretell results. So they are leading indicators, right? They tell us that we're on track to getting what we want done. And the idea here with the scorecard is for us to be, on a beach somewhere and be able to look, have the have no internet and no cell service and have the waiter or waitress deliver us an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that tells us everything that we need to know about our business, right? So that we have the peace of mind to know that the right actions are being taken this week to get us closer to our long-term goals. So we as EOS implementers will walk you through building that scorecard, but it is about thinking through the things that bring you the most results. So, sometimes people will say, oh, I want to look at weekly revenue. Well, can you what impacts weekly revenue? Like, let's back into that. What are the things that impact weekly revenue? Because once weekly revenue is here, it's already here, right? We need to back into that and decide, is it client meetings? Is it proposals? Is it what is it that's going to impact that? And those are the types of numbers that we end up putting on the scorecard that give people a true pulse. So we have a leadership level scorecard that tells the leaders of an organization exactly what they need to know about the business. And then what we encourage people to do is cascade that scorecarding discipline down into the rest of the organization so that each department has its own departmental level scorecard. So like on the marketing side of things, I was head of marketing and development for the business that I was in here. And so we were constantly looking at things like meetings, right? Like, so we were looking at more external facing things. You guys, I would imagine, are looking at sort of the performance of digital campaigns and that kind of thing. So building a marketing scorecard is going to be, it's going to be unique for every business that you are in. And I think the hardest part about building a marketing scorecard is that just so much that you measure, right? You guys have so many numbers that you can look at. Trying to whittle that down, like that's the challenge. Whittle that down to what are the most important numbers that tell us if we're on track to hitting our goals. So while I can't tell you what specifically to put on a marketing scorecard, I would say, as you kind of think through this, how do you whittle this down to the most important numbers that give you a true picture of what's happening in the business? It's not an easy thing to do. And I always struggled with that in my own business. Do you guys struggle with that in your business when it comes to figuring out what dashboard to use, what numbers to share with clients? Like, that's hard, right?
It is. And there are so many metrics that are really vanity metrics that people want to naturally gravitate toward because it's like they feel good, right? So it's like, oh, look at all these people who just like this post on Facebook. And it's like, okay, big deal. How much revenue did that drive? How many phone calls did you get? And so and I think a lot of people get seduced by that. There's so much bad information out there from, people who are trying to sell their various spin or their various tool sets. And they really are tool vendors. They're not solution providers. And, at the end of the day, ultimately it's, how many phone calls did you get? How many contact forms were submitted? What's your close ratio? Are you getting customers to repeat buy? It's not about, oh, great, I had 10 keywords ranking on the first page this month. That's going to change. I guarantee you that's going to change. We do not live in a static world.
Yeah. And so
I was going to say, it's also difficult because when you're presenting data to clients, if you don't know how to interpret that data, you can get the wrong impression.
Yeah, it's about telling the right story with the data, right?
Exactly.
Well, and I think with, when you think about marketing in general, if we're looking at leads, right, those are leading indicators, right? Leads are leading indicators as to whether or not we're going to close a deal. So many of the numbers that you are looking at, sort of your bottom line numbers, right? How many phone calls, how many leads, like that's probably what's going to be on a business's marketing scorecard, right? So that they can see weekly what is going to lead to good outcomes for us, right? New customers, new clients for us. So maybe it's easier than we think it is to build the right marketing scorecard from a business standpoint. Now, the marketing department itself, looking at what led into all those leads, right? That's a whole nother, can of worms, right? And that's where it gets sort of complicated for you guys in figuring out what are the right things to be looking at to know what to adjust in our marketing campaigns to be able to lead to the results that we want. It's not easy.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not doing it anymore.
But I think what you outlined there, Nina, is so true. Is that when you have your North Star metrics, your, for dental clients of ours, it's new patients and revenue, monthly revenue, right? And when you always keep your eye on those things, and then your supporting metrics below that are, phone calls, lead form submittals, whatever it is, and then below that you start to get more and more into the details. But all of them, really, you could track anything, you are tracking everything, but the scorecards you're using at each kind of tier is always related to that North Star set of metrics. I think that you're responsible to the client for. I think that's what really helps bring clarity to the reporting. And I'm really pleased to hear that sounds true in what you're talking about with EOS as well. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, it's great.
So Nina, we're coming up on the top of the hour, so I'll give you one last little kind of little easier question, maybe. And maybe
I was going to say, Jeff, go easy on me.
Just if you kind of look back over your entrepreneurial journey, EOS or beyond, what would you say has been your biggest aha moment?
Oh, that actually is an easy one for me. Thanks, Jeff. So my biggest aha, and this is going to sound a little woo-woo and probably kumbaya for some people, but my biggest aha has been to surrender and allow, as opposed to drive. I have been driving my entire life, and always feeling like I can control outcomes. And when I lean into surrendering and allowing, doing what I need to do, doesn't mean that I'm not taking initiative, but doing what I need to do and then letting go of the outcomes, better things happen for me in my business and in my life. I feel calmer, I feel happier, and I just sort of trust that things are going to work out the way that they are supposed to. I wish that I knew that in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, but I don't know that I would have been ready for the lesson. So I think the lesson comes along when you're ready for it. And it's taken me, at 51 years old, it's taken me till now to maybe to learn it. But man, it's a lot better for me now. That doesn't mean I don't come out of it every now and again and start to get in dry and stress mode. But I spend a lot more time in surrender and allow than I do in that other mode. So I would encourage other people to find that if they can.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. Nina, thanks so much for your time and insights today. We've always loved working with you and talking with you. You have, you just have such clarity in the way that I think you express concepts and ideas. And so it's always exciting to have you on board. What advice do you have for businesses that are looking to implement EOS? And also, what's the best way for our audience to learn more about you and maybe how you could help them implement EOS?
Awesome. Thanks, Ken. So I think the best way, EOS implementers, we always, we will sit with you for 90 minutes. We'll walk you through the system and learn a little bit about your business. We can learn about each other. It's kind of a discovery meeting. It's complimentary. So we do, complimentary 90-minute meetings. Great way to just sort of dive into EOS. And honestly, you get some tools out of it. So even if you decide not to pursue EOS, it's just a great way to learn about the system in general. So if you're interested in your market, reach out to an EOS implementer there. You can find the guide on eosworldwide.com. And then I work mostly here in Vegas, some in Northern California as well. But Ken has my website that he built up on the screen. Thanks, Ken. And then I'm also at eosworldwide.com/Nina-Radetich. So that's my other microsite through EOS Worldwide. And happy to just hop on a call with anybody who's interested in learning more. Send you a traction book if you'd like one, and spend 90 minutes with you and your leadership team if it makes sense.
Fantastic. Sorry, I didn't know if you were going to end with anything there, Ken, but I will jump in. Thank you, Nina, for joining us today. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. This is awesome. If you follow us, if you come and listen to our podcast regularly, please leave a review. That's very helpful for us getting more exposure. And if you have a topic that you'd like us to cover, please send it to us. We would love to cover topics that you're most interested in. We'll explore those. And please check out Nina and her information. And Nina, this topic was fantastic. I think it elevated the discussion that we as business owners always need to be talking about. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Ken, Paul, and Jeff for joining us today. And until next week, folks, keep calm and mark it on.